Yeah, and Andrew Neil, if I could come back to you for a moment. You know, we've covered the royals for many, many decades, and they've always been the biggest story in town. And like you say, the news of the King's diagnosis is leading the news around the world, not least in America, where it's huge. I've had loads of calls from people wanting interviews about this already, so you can see how big a story this is. But does it also point to the fragility of our royal family right now? We've lost the great matriarch in the Queen. We lost the great patriarch in Prince Philip. We've now got the Princess of Wales, who's having months off work because of, we don't know what it was that she had, but it was obviously pretty serious. We've got Charles now, the new monarch, who has cancer. You know, if you look at the sort of top list of royals, this is a big moment, isn't it? I mean, this is like I say, this points to the fragility of the whole thing.
It's come at a bad time. Of course, cancer diagnosis never come at a good time, but with the royal family, we've gone from surplus to famine very, very quickly. I mean, a lot of people say, I don't mind the king or the queen, I don't mind the very top royals, but I don't like all these hangers-on. Well, a lot of the so-called, my mother used to call them hangers-on. Well, these kind of royals seem to have stopped hanging on. They've disappeared now. Prince Andrew's no longer in the game. Prince Harry candidated himself out along with Meghan. The Princess of Wales has not been well, so William has recused himself too. We are now have a royal family that is pretty short-handed. And of course, this will put huge strain on the Queen at a very difficult time for her, but also more strain on William, who was hoping to step back and look after his wife. He is now under pressure and will succumb to that pressure to get back into public life and pick up some of these public engagements. So it's the productivity of the remaining senior members of the royal family who are able to do what royals should be doing, not many of them anymore, but that will have to increase in the weeks and months ahead. And I think the other thing to look for, this is just a breaking story, Piers, as you know. We do not know what kind of cancer it is, though all cancer is scary and bad. We do not know the treatment that the king is getting or what impact the treatment will have on the king himself, which I think is very important. So I think in the days and probably the weeks ahead, we'll get a better idea of whether the king will be able to carry on in private with his important duties and eventually come back to public life, or whether it's so serious that even in private his duties are now hard to carry out. That, to my mind, is the thing to look for in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sarah, I mean, Andrew's so right, isn't it, that the number of top people in the royal family available to do the functional work of the royal family, which is huge. I mean, they all do hundreds of royal engagements a year. These can be big ones, small ones, but they're serving the people. That's the deal, the contract with the British public. There aren't many of them at the moment able to actually work.
No, and those that are working already have packed schedules. Princess Anne, for example, has an incredibly busy diary, and the King is going to be relying on his sister now, also on Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, on Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, and Prince William. But as Andrew was saying, Prince William was hoping to take some time out to be looking after his wife and children. Next week is half term. The children will be home from school. Kate not really able to be carrying on as normal. But we had the announcement today, and I think the timing of that was significant and choreographed, that he's back to public duties on Wednesday. He's going to be hosting an investiture at Windsor Castle. He's got an event on Wednesday. He needs to be seen because, as the late Queen used to say, you know, the royal family need to be seen to be believed.
But worth remembering, William will be very worried about his wife.
And worried about his father.
And Camilla will be absolutely, you know, heartbroken about what's going on with Charles, the great love of her life. Never mind the public duty stuff. Yeah. She's going to carry on with her duties. Then presumably some of them will have to pick up some of the King's at some stage if it carries on. But she'll also have, in her own world, this is a devastating moment.
Yes.
And sometimes it's easy to forget.
And
they're human beings.
Be supporting him through his treatment as well, because we don't know what impact it's going to have on him. You talked about reading between the lines of the statements. Now we look back on some of the words that Camilla has said over the past couple of weeks. Initially, when she was asked, she said he was doing fine. Last week, she said he's doing his best.
Yes.
When she was asked how he was. And that takes on a greater significance. Now we know what has been going on behind the scenes.